Hey everybody, it's me, the Einstein on Wall Street. From the balcony at the New York Stock Exchange, a quarter for 250,000, 250,000, 3/8, take them. I brought you everything in food, fashion, finance, and fun. Today, I'm bringing you one of my favorite new person in my life. Her name is Cayla Birk. We've known each other for about a couple of years now. She is one of the exclusive artists that is in the Big Board Art Hall, which is my gallery on the 6th floor of the Stock Exchange, which has recently been written up as the #1 private exclusive gallery in the world. Okay? I had made a show that had a lot of art that's all about finance and public companies. That's what the art has to be like. But the only addition to that show was Cayla Birk. And that was the most exciting thing for me. Her art has so much texture to it and so much life to it. And she, as a human being and as an artist and as a Renaissance woman, is absolutely breaking ceilings across the way. It couldn't be a better day for her to be here celebrating the New York Stock Exchange, celebrating our relationship and our friendship, and her being in this show and all the new things that are going to come about. She's got a new show that's about to smash them all out on YouTube. It's been around, but we're going to talk about it today. My dearest, welcome to Trade Like Einstein at the New York Stock Exchange.
Thanks for having me.
Love you, love you, love you.
Love you so much.
Awesome. So let's talk for a minute. So Cayla is an artist and is a Renaissance woman. She is also a cook. We're not calling her a chef, by her own calling, and she has a number of shows. She's got, look, her art is extraordinary. So one of the things that was so moving for me, I'm a people person, I'm a humanist, right? That's what excites me about an artist, about their work and whatnot. And so I was completely intrigued by Cayla's work that I saw on Instagram. The textures of it are extraordinary. The subject matter is so special in so many different ways that literally when I had already closed down the curation of my show, I actually had to break down the curation and add a new artist to the show, and that was Cayla. So I'm so excited. You know, tell me about you. Give me a little background.
Okay. Well, as Peter said, I am an artist, full-time contemporary fine artist. I am both domestically and internationally represented. And as he was saying, I am known for a very whimsical, textured style of my art. It features verbiage, imagery, everything that has something to do with the overwhelming theme of the piece, as you know, Peter. Right. And from there, I have been doing this full-time for 9 years. Okay. I'm very proud of that, and it's a pleasure to be with you here today. I have to say, when I was going for my idea for my show, it's called The Palette, okay? Palette is a portmanteau of a word, half and half, okay? It's spelled P-A-L-A-T-T-E, meaning the palette in your mouth, and then a color palette.
Okay.
Now, my second favorite
and
passion...
those words are both spelled differently.
Both spelled differently.
Okay, and they mean completely different
things. I wanted to make something that shows the world my secondary passion, not just art, which would be food. Okay. So, during the time of COVID, we had obviously no art shows, the world had shut down, and a lot of people were becoming very prolific on the internet. Right. I considered the idea of doing a podcast. If you can't tell, I love to talk, just like Peter did. That's why we get along.
What a problem, yes.
Yes, and I've always made food. I've always enjoyed food, chefs, the artistry of it.
Cooking people, right, that relationship.
It brings everything together, right. And it brings everyone together at a table. Art is very similar. It brings a lot of conversation, a lot of feelings, emotion. So I wanted to converge those two together. And that's how the palette was born. Every episode, we take a famous piece of art and make a complementary dish in both color and feel. There's also other parts of the content that come through that teach people about the art itself, and then the food I'm also creating. So I'm bringing it home.
You know, look, it is extraordinary because art and food have so much. I'm thinking going back to, like, I guess, French impressionists, right? To think of, like Provence, think about Matisse, think about, and where like still lifes, right? For me, growing up, my parents are European Holocaust survivors, came to America. They were sponsored by a woman whose name was Rena Kazursky. She went on to become a very famous artist. Her art, her genre was still lifes, and she did still lifes of food and fruit, and like there's a piece she did called The Onions, right? And it was so, and I grew up with it, and I never thought of it till you just brought that up now, how that, when you see a piece of art, right? Art can be any number of things. There's new street art, and there's all different, you're showing a little bit of yourself, but you have something
extra. Music, everything. I mean, art is multifaceted.
All of it in a palette.
Everything's art. Yes,
right,
we're all in a palette. Yes,
but,
Peter.
But right. So which is so exciting, but still lifes and food and all that just is meaningful to me, and I think that's why I was so moved by it. Let's go back for a minute before we talk about the palette. So one of the things that I have a gallery here called the Big Board Art Show. It is one of the greatest, in my opinion, not to blow smoke up anything, but for me, one of my great accomplishments, because when I started to get noticed on social media, and all these young artists sort of came into my world, you being one of them, whose art relates to finance and food and fashion and all that kind of stuff. I came to the Stock Exchange, where there's a lot of art in this building, but it's very old school, it's a little archaic, it's sort of etchings and early Alexander Hamilton motif. But I came to them and said, you know what, look, young street artists came into my world whose art related to finance, and that was a big thing, right? And so I started meeting everybody, and it turned out many of the artists who now are basically live in Miami and are housed around Art Basel and stuff like that sort of came into my world, and I suggested to the Stock Exchange, why don't we put up one wall? Stock Exchange then was listing Twitter and Snapchat, and sort of they were reinventing themselves in a way, and I thought it would be kind of fun to put up some new fun street art in the building. And the gentleman, Josh King, kudos to Josh King, and to Lynn Martin, the president of the CEO of the Stock Exchange, they went for the idea. Did not think they were going to do it, not that they are not appreciators of great art. It's just that the Stock Exchange it's more traditional in a way than to put up street art. They loved it, and it has exploded. We are now in our third curation, and Cayla is a big part of that. And so your art, I want to go back to your art for a second, because it's sort of super important. It's different. There are a lot of artists in the world today whose art's very typical. It's a bit comical. You said whimsical, and yours is, but there's a lot of stuff using animation and characters and stuff like that. Your art is not relatable to anything else. There's nothing copycat about it. It is really independent in mind and spirit, and I love that about it. I'd love to go back to, so for me, the series that I love is the one of where it's got caviar, and it's got the one that we have a piece upstairs of. What are your thought process behind that?
Okay, so that series is called Take the Lot, and what those are, I'm known in my career to take small things and make them large.
Okay.
It is kind of the underlying motif that happens quite a bit. I've taken Pantone swatches and made them large. I've taken prescription sheets, I've made them large.
Right.
Periodic table of elements and made them large. So this was just one in the line of these types of ideas.
So it's kind of think big. I don't mean to interrupt you.
No, it is.
There used to be a store in New York called Think Big.
Oh, I know about it.
You remember it?
I have a picture as a kid in front of it because
No
I
way.
was always a small kid.
Person, right,
and my
as
mom
we both
always,
are.
yes, my mom tells me great things come in small packages.
There you go.
She
And
tells
so
me
there was
big things come in small packages.
Correct. There was a store in New York called Think Big, and they had giant versions, like a giant paperclip or a giant tennis racket. And I loved that store. I used to go hang out there. So that's where it's coming from. Okay, go ahead.
Yes, so it comes from you could say that I've been slowly molded to kind of do this underlying thought of small things made large. I just never thought about it.
But it's exciting because you take a prescription, a prescription for medication, and you blow it up, and for some crazy reason, it's just something you want on your wall.
Absolutely. And I'm also, even for that series, those are called the scriptures. I'm not prescribing normal things. We're prescribing out-of-the-box things, whether that's 3 fingers of whiskey neat or, hustle 8 days a week, things like that. So it's always taking something that's normal and relatable to people and then taking it out of context. For that series, the piece that is upstairs in the gallery, that's from a series called Take the Lot. Okay. And those are large versions of Loteria cards. Loteria was basically Mexican bingo, a game of luck, or a game of chance, if you would say.
Right.
And I wanted to flip that on its head. So I juxtaposed an idea of luck with something of skill. So all of the different topics that are on each of those pieces are all either items or a mental state that you have to work to attain.
Wow.
It's not just given to you, it's not just luck, you have to work to attain it. So that's why you probably fell in love with it, Peter. You're a hardworking man yourself, you've come from the bottom and you've worked your way up. Same concept for that.
Wow, okay.
And all of my pieces always do feature my signature drawings, which are what I referred to as whimsical. Now, maybe you're correct. That's not really the right word to say.
No, I like that word. It was different than comical, which a lot of other...
It is a bit whimsical, and that's what, most observers tend to tell me. But hidden in there, and that style of everything being drawn, that is what I'm known for.
Right.
And always in there, it features different lyrics, verbiage, imagery, everything that has to do with the overwhelming theme. So the piece upstairs is a Louis Vuitton bag, and it's called La Bolsa, the bag. And we have a lot of jokes about just throw it in the bag, money in the bag, a duffel bag filled with money, and that's kind of how we related it to the stock exchange to make sure that it worked. So that being said, each of those pieces really always have background information that reflects the overwhelming theme of the piece.
The texture are actually words, so it's lyrics.
It's lyrics, it's famous quotes, it's always different homages to things that have to do with the overwhelming theme. So up there, it'll refer to Louis Vuitton,
Right.
and we'll refer to duffel bag money, working
Right.
hard,
Oh, I
throw
love
it in the
that.
bag,
I've
all
learned
these
so much
different
more about
things.
you just knowing that. Okay, let's go back to you as a kid, right? What was your what created the sort of the direction, your journey? Give me the beginnings of your journey into art or into you as a for
Okay.
me one of the most exciting women I've ever met in my life.
Thank you so much. Oh my gosh,
Truly.
Peter. Thank you. That's likewise, Peter. So I'll tell you this. I have always been a creative through and through. And I knew that in my life, whatever career I chose, I wanted to make sure that I used that creative side of my brain. Now, did I believe that I was going to be a contemporary fine artist? No, I didn't. I believed I was the ideas person. Andy Warhol was the same way. He believed I have the ideas, but others, I can delegate, but others are more adept at bringing them into fruition.
Right.
I had that same thought, and I always wanted to work in advertising, which I did. I went to university.
Me too. That was my
I
dream.
wanted to be creative director,
Yes,
on Fifth Avenue. That was like my thing.
Yeah.
And I went to university. I got to that point. I became a junior art director at the age of 22. I was young and I had so much fun, but then I learned that I didn't want to work for anyone else.
Okay.
And
That was a weird culture too.
it is a very weird
Yeah,
culture
yeah.
over there. No disrespect,
No,
no
no,
shade being thrown,
no,
but
no.
when you see it, it's hard to unsee.
Yeah, yeah.
And I then, branded companies independently. I worked as a freelance designer, and somehow, the universe always has a way of showing you exactly who you're meant to be.
Yep, yep.
And here we are, Peter.
So, you know what, it's funny that you say all that because I'm now learning, it's funny how we speak to each other in sort of spiritual ways and visual ways. What moved me about your piece, so the first piece that I saw was that series, right?
Yes.
And what's it called?
It's called Take the Lot.
Take the Lot. Okay, how many are there?
In total?
Right.
So the actual game itself has 54 cards to play,
You
and
have-
I
you
made
painted-
54
you made
concepts.
So there are so many there. Okay, so there
We don't cut any
there's
corners. We have to do it.
I love them. It goes from caviar to Louis Vuitton bags to any number of things, to Xanax or whatever. Things that are in our lives, that are things that are sort of a part of our lives but are very special. But what intrigued me about it was, as you, I was, my dream was to become an advertising exec. That was I love that. And so when I saw your piece, it really harped back to like John Hamm and Mad Men, right? It was that era.
Greatest compliment ever, everybody. Greatest compliment ever.
For me, and I didn't realize that till you just said that was your calling. Because for me, when I saw that piece, it was all about advertising in that era. And it's just like, I just finished watching, have you seen Friends and Neighbors, right?
Yes, I have.
Obviously,
I love John Hamm.
guy.
Big
Me
fan,
too.
big
Me
fan.
too. I love it.
Big
So
fan.
anyway, so that's great. So we're on the same page there. Okay, excuse me a second.
Yeah, no problem. I'm going to do the same.
We're taking a water break.
Water break.
Anyway, so we're completely aligned on that thought process. Okay, so you as a youngster, I sort of interrupted you. Go ahead with your calling to be an artist.
So that was, basically, that was it. After going through what I believed was going to be my ultimate career, I got there at a young age. I had achieved it. I wanted that. I then realized I wanted more. I wanted more than to work for someone else, and I wanted to achieve more in this life. There's not a lot that people, some people, they just want to live a good, happy life, and that's normal. Totally fine. No shade thrown there. I have just had soul-crushingly large dreams my entire life, even since I was a kid, and I intend to achieve them, if I'm being honest, Peter.
Yeah.
It's really not a if, it's a when.
Yeah,
At least for me.
I love that about you because you feel like the same as I feel. Like you wake up every morning and it's just opportunity,
Yeah.
right? It's connecting people to opportunity and visions and light and color and all that stuff, and that's why I love the fact. So Cayla is a artist, and then there's the palette. So just when you thought that she was just going to be painting these incredible paintings and going on her way as an artist that way, she comes up with the palette. So I need more detail on that because look, also I grew up as I'm not, and as you said, I said, are you a chef? And you said no. In deep respect to chefs, yes, chef, right? To be a chef is not somebody who likes to cook or even has had some training. A chef is there's huge. Somebody who's a chef, it is a special.
And they've earned that title.
They've earned it.
They've earned it, and it's not an easy thing to earn.
Not at all.
Creativity obviously is the common thread between most forms of art. Which, let's make no mistake here, the culinary world is art in itself.
100%, more now than ever.
More now than ever, and I'm glad that you had me jump back to me as an artist before delving into the palette because. In essence, we are lovingly beating people over the head with the idea of the art, right? Cooking is an art form, videography, photography is an art form, and I'm an artist creating a dish that is a reflection of a piece of art. The idea is to not only put the idea at the forefront that art is everywhere, but it's to make it something approachable. I think that food is a commonality for all of us, and a lot of people feel a sense of kinship to it.
Right.
Not everybody loves art, or sometimes you'll say to someone, I like art, and they think, oh, well, I don't know anything about art.
Right.
Well, this is why they will now.
Yeah,
and
they
I've
will.
found, even with putting out the first season, we now have just launched the second season of the palette, people will say to me, I didn't think that they had a connection with art, but because I'm taking these iconic pieces, for example, I did The Kiss by Gustav Klimt.
Right.
I had so many people reach out to me saying, my parents had a print of that in my house, or when I was a kid, this really defined how I felt, and I felt so akin to that piece of art. And when you made that episode, it made me feel a certain way.
Amazing.
And I thought, well, that's the whole point, right?
That was
And
the
these are people who aren't openly artsy, you know,
Right.
such as myself, right, are you? And for them to feel a sense of, okay, now I want to learn more about art. That's great. We're doing our job here at the Palette, right? And I'm doing my job as an artist.
Yeah.
I've always said, people ask me a lot, what do you want to accomplish as an artist? And the first thing I ask them is, how much time do you have? And the second thing is usually, if I can change or make someone feel something, even if they disagree, then my job here is done. The point is to
100%.
evoke some sort of emotion or thought process in art. And here we are achieving that both by taste and by sight. And I think that's really a beautiful thing.
So think about it also where food is gone in a bake. So I also grew up, I was not formally trained, but I was trained. I had a godmother who lived in the south of France in a place called Monton, which is just on the coast, right next to the border of Italy. And she was an amazing, she was a cook, but she was really a chef. She was the kind of a woman, and I spent summers with her from the age of 13 to 17. I would go there and spend 3 months in the most beautiful place in the world. And she was the kind of woman, and she would spend 2 months at our house. And she was French Alsatian. And so she just loved food. She was the kind of woman who could open the fridge and there would be nothing in there, and she would create a meal that was just like it was unbelievable. And so that's the kind of a cook I became. Somebody who did not need. I mean, I've done beautifully planned dishes, and I've had some training, but I don't think of myself as a chef. I think of myself as a cook and a lover of.
You're an enthusiast,
exactly.
a food enthusiast.
But
by
think
all
about
means.
where plating has gone. So eating. Look, think about it. I'm a little older than you, but I'm a lot older than you. But the way eating and food and plating, the whole. I mean, think about it. The whole industry, right? Restaurants. I mean, growing up, I mean, it was a big part of my life having parents who were Eastern European. So culture and art and all that was super important. But how eating and cooking and restaurants has exploded, right? I mean, think about it. It wasn't just Instagram that made it, where everybody's spending more time taking pictures of their dinner than eating their dinner, right? But plating is an art. I mean, if
Absolutely.
you think about it, if you watch some of the top, and that is one of the fun things about Instagram, is that you get to see, I mean, there are some chefs around the world, a few in Denmark, some of these Michelin chefs who can create a palette, if I may quote you.
Absolutely.
That is, I mean, literally with tweezers, placing things in a way. And I saw that, and I did not know that about you, but your ability to create an incredible palette and plating a dish, right, which is so incredibly artistic, and that's been amazing.
Thank you so much, Peter. I've always said, because again, not a chef, but enjoy food, and I enjoy what it does, and it brings people around each other, and it sparks a lot of conversation and everything like that. I have to be honest. When I first started to, do the palette and do plating and things like that, I've always kind of been a person who believes that you should eat with your eyes before you eat with your stomach. However, there is nothing worse than thinking something is going to be so delicious and you taste it and it's not. If it's too pretty and doesn't taste well, that's my big no-no.
100%.
So I've tried to find a middle line, and I think that also the palette is very easy for people to relate to, because I am not a professional chef.
Right.
And I make that very clear. I have so much respect for chefs. I worked in the hospitality industry for many, many years, and I'm here to just provide a bridge between the refined level of the culinary world and the refined level of art, So that's where we are.
So look, we've grown up with TV and cooking as a big part of our lives, right?
Absolutely.
Growing up, for me, I'm aging myself, but there was, what's her name? Why am I thinking the French chef? Julia Child. Hello, I'm Julia Child.
Yes, Julia
Anyway,
Child.
she was the only chef. You all now know every possible Iron Chef, and every chef in the world has a TV show. Some are good at it, some are not. But it takes a really special thing to relate to the person, relate to the camera, relate to the food, and relate to the art.
Absolutely.
And I think you've done something that is just so unique. There's so much cookie cutter stuff going on out there in the art world and in the food world and in social media and in videography and all that stuff. And what you've done is so exciting. So you take a bit. So which is the impetus of this, of the first thing? Is it which comes first?
I knew you were going to ask that.
The art, the chicken, or the egg?
Okay, so I knew you were going to ask that, and you're going to like this answer because it's not going to be what you expect. Of course, in the beginning, when I came up with the concept, I was choosing a piece of art. I wanted to choose the most iconic pieces of art in the beginning. That's how you drive home a concept to people, right? So the first episode was the Mona Lisa, arguably the most famous painting in the world. Now I find my brain working both ways. Sometimes I will eat a dish that I really love, let's say like a lobster pot pie or something like that, and I'll think, oh, I wonder if there's a painting that I could match to that. So now I find my brain working both ways. It started one way, but now, you know, if I eat something and I'm inspired by the color of it, I think, oh, well, I'm sure I could find a painting to match that. So I'm actually burning the candle at both ends, so to speak.
I mean, you would think then, okay, so you're taking a piece of art that's got, it's a still life of food or something, but it's not.
No, it's not.
It's a feeling that you get. So what was the food that related to the Mona Lisa?
So for the Mona Lisa, I did a raviolo. So I knew that I wanted to do ravioli because obviously the Mona Lisa is quite neutral colors.
Well, so it's color,
technically the Mona Lisa, although it sits in France, it is done by, yes, Da Vinci, so it's Italian. And some people said that to me. Oh, are you going to make a dish that has to be the cuisine of where the artist is from?
You're breaking.
No, I want to completely deconstruct the idea. We are taking things out of context just to challenge every part of the brain. But for the Mona Lisa, I knew I wanted to do a ravioli with a pesto because of the colors. When I looked at it, I thought, okay, this works. But originally, when
they're dark,
they're dark.
They're dark
colors. It's dark colors for the Mona Lisa. And I originally had, when I was doing my drawings, which are at the beginning of every episode, it is a drawing that matches the painting, so you know what I'm going to plan to cook.
You're drawing the plate.
It's always a drawing that you see digitized and moving. And originally I was going to do ravioli, and then I thought, well, that's not right. The Mona Lisa is one entity. She is one all-encompassing being. So I did a raviolo, which for those of you who don't know,
I do not know.
It has an egg yolk in the center, and it is usually ricotta mixed with some sort of herbs in the middle. So it's a gigantic raviolo that takes over the plate, and when you open it, it oozes. The egg is soft. And that felt more like the Mona Lisa. She's one thing, she's one entity, and it's very alluring, and that's what a raviolo is. There's no fluff. It's one big ravioli.
Love this. You are absolutely going to love it. All right, painting number 2. What was the next? I want to give people a little bit of a breakdown.
Okay, good. So painting number 2 was Gustav Klimt's The Kiss.
Okay.
Now for
most people know Gustav Klimt's what's the one with the dress?
Yes. I think it's called. Is it called The Dress?
Maybe the dress? No, but that's one most people who don't know art well is the one of this woman, and it's a great story. If you read up about the woman, who the woman was, she was a fascinating fashion figure in Holland, I think, or somewhere at the time. But
yes,
go ahead. So
you're correct.
Klimt the Kiss. I'm not
that her dress and all the little flowers and things, that is replicative of also The Kiss. So that's like two people who are entwined and they're kissing. It's very famous, and they have almost this like robed kind of layer of flowers and everything around them. Which is very Klimty. And for that, I actually did a lobster and grits. So shrimp and grits is the common one, but lobster, again, represents like the one entity that they become when they kiss. And also the entire base of the plate that had the roux that normally would go on the top of the grits, I hid that under the grits to also feel like it was being robed the same way that the lovers were. And then it has flowers and things like that to also be replicative of the piece. So it felt very good. And that by far, I think, might be people's favorite episode thus far. Yes, at least that's what I would guess from the
response.
Yes, and it could just be that painting is so famous that people feel a kinship to it. It might not be the dish itself; it might be the piece. But yeah, that's.
You know what? It's just the whole idea is really exciting, and I love the fact that so you have this amazing ability. You know, not everybody can carry the camera and the mood while cooking, right? It's not an easy thing to do.
No, it's not.
I've tried to do it, and you've really got it. Everybody's got to go check out the palette, right? Cayla Birk, besides Cayla's art, because I think back, you also have an amazing ability on Instagram to basically do those sort of slow-mo or fast-mo paintings of
Yes.
you painting,
Yes.
which is so exciting. So you get to see your process, right? Because look, we go to a gallery, we see something in an ad campaign or on TV or whatever it is, and you suddenly just see the piece and you see the person. But to see your process for me is so exciting, because then look, this is my whole world and life is all about humanism, to get to know someone
Right.
on the inside out. That's what we want. We want your spirituality. We want you emotionally, physically, financially. I want to see everything about you and see what goes into the nooks and crannies that make you you, which is so exciting. Like we just walked up to the balcony at the stock exchange, and there's a tradition here on the floor that everybody who gets to ring the opening and closing bell gets to sign a wall. What was intriguing about it was the whole idea, besides the legacy behind it, was that no two signatures are the same. So look, there are no two people who are exactly the same. No
Absolutely.
two artists, no two chefs, and no two the way people approach a situation.
Absolutely.
And what's so exciting for me is you really have done not only your art, not only the palette, but you in general in your personality are they're out of the box, they're super exciting, and that's what I love about you. I think it's just exciting.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you. That's very kind of you, honestly.
And you know what? For me, what was so exciting is, look, there are going to be a lot more shows in the Big Board Art Hall, and I know Cayla is going to be part of every one of them. So look, if you love food, if you love finance, if you love art, if you love the plating process, and if you just love people who are doing things that are different, breaking the barriers and just telling their story, it's all about the story. That's what makes us different. Then you've got to see Cayla Birk. You've got to check her out on every one of the platforms that she goes on. YouTube's about to break out with Cayla Birk on that, and check out the palette. And I'm so happy you were here with me. You're wonderful. Love you. Way more to come, and you got to check that out. And that's all I got to say about that.